Okay. So my short talk is in a few sections. So I'm going to start by just telling you the story of how we got started in Ireland, our first unit of service, and how it the work grew from there. Then I'm going to tell you some of the things that we tried along the way. Some things worked well, some things not so well. And the hope is that anyone who is thinking of maybe joining a unit of service or even starting their own first full moon meditation group or even simply forming a triangle, that you might be encouraged to just go ahead and do it. You know, don't think too far ahead, and don't wait for conditions to be perfect. Just go ahead and do it. And at the end, if you're still awake, I'll finish with just a very short little story related to the new group of word servers. So I have a few slides. There's a map of Ireland in the slides as well. So worst case scenario, you learn a little bit of geography anyway. Okay. Okay. So I consider myself very fortunate to have come across the teachings of DK and Alice Bailey. Having joined the Arcane School about 30 years ago, I was 12 at the time, I was eagerly looking forward to my first Arcane School conference. In the weeks leading up to it, I figured, well, it's on in London, so there's about to be 2,000 people attending, at least 100 from Ireland, and perhaps a dozen of them from Cork. So I'll be sorted. Well, I overestimated slightly, but the lack of quantity was more than made up for in quality. I was very lucky to meet one student from Cork named Joyce Green, and so began many years of collaboration. That same year, I met a local healer in Cork named Bill Parfrey. I handed him a copy of Esoteric Healing and introduced him to the Bailey teachings. Bill, Joyce, and I formed our first triangle. Joyce lived in a big old haunted house. Bill and I would visit her each month. We would solve all the world's problems over a nice cup of tea, and then finish with a full moon meditation. That routine continued until the next school conference. I was chatting with Steve Nation, who looked after World Goodwill desk at the time. Steve said it would be great if I started a full moon group in Cork. My head was nodding in agreement, but internally I was saying to myself, not a hope, me standing up in public. Fast forward a few months, I was attending a meeting of the Cork Discovery Group, which was a self-development group in Cork City. The guest speaker on the night was unable to attend. So rather than cancel the meeting, the facilitator went around the group asking if anyone had anything interesting to share. So as he came closer to me, I was debating with myself, will I or won't I? Eventually he came to me, and I found myself saying, I have a couple of friends and we meditate at the full moon. To my surprise and delight, people were interested in learning more. So a few weeks later, at the Full Moon Festival of Sagittarius, we gathered in the same room above an estate agent's. There were 12 people there at the time, so it felt a little bit like the Last Supper. So I had borrowed a flip chart and gave an introduction talk on full moon meditation. Joyce Green, who was in her 80s at the time, was like the wise owl. She spoke of the astrological influences and the opportunities presented by inflowing energies. And then we held our first public full moon meditation. Now, the reason I go into this in such detail is because that moment was pivotal to everything that had happened since. Many more opportunities presented themselves, doors opened, and the right people got involved at the right time. And opportunities for service continued to expand. Indeed, the presentation I gave on the first night was far from perfect. So I enrolled in a training course to improve my presentation skills. Not long after completing the course, a vacancy came up in the training department in the company. So I moved into that role. So speaking in public became a full-time activity. So having established the full moon meditation, we had anchored the work in Cork. The rhythm of the full moon meditation sounds a particular note, which tends to attract like-minded people to come along each month to meditate as an act of world service. I had a sort of Starbucks loyalty card system going. If someone came along to 3 consecutive full moon meetings, I would bring them down to visit Joyce Green for afternoon tea as a reward. So a little while later, another student of the Arcane School named Steve Rekab began holding full moon meditation meetings in Dublin. At this stage, we were looking at ways to spread the work through book sales. we approached a number of bookshops and convinced one small bookshop in Cork City to stock a selection of Alice Bailey books. Within the selection of books ordered were titles that we'd already planned to buy ourselves anyway. So I would go in and ask a few friends to drop into the bookshop on different days and pick up various copies. So the owner was delighted to see books flying off the shelves and promptly ordered more. A little while later, my wife and I drove up along the east coast of Ireland, visiting bookshops in every town along the way. By the time we reached Dublin, we had doubled the number of bookshops selling the Bailey books. We started with 1, now we had 2. The next opportunity to present itself was getting involved in Mind, Body, Spirit festivals, which began in Dublin and Cork in spring and autumn of each year. We would hire a stand, get a box of literature sent from Lucis Trust in London, and display the literature and leaflets and booklets to the public. In addition to hiring a stand, in the main hall, we were offered a couple of speaking slots. So we availed of these and presented short lectures on the work of DK and Alice Bailey. We found the most popular leaflet was the one on full moon meditation, so we began to give introductory talks on meditation at the full moon, and this helped the groups to grow. The organizers of the festival were keen to vary the lecture topics each year. So we had full moon meditation, meditation at the full moon, sacred times, group meditation and the lunar cycle, all different titles but the exact same talk each year. So perhaps because the teachings and terminology was so new, people tended to take a few leaflets or booklets from the stand without asking him any questions or commit to joining any mailing list. But we knew we were sowing the seeds and next year these same people would return to the stand looking for more information on meetings and events. By now we had made contact with Anne and Michel Berco, a French couple who wanted to set up an esoteric center in the west of Ireland. Michel and his colleagues in France were doing research into the etheric body. Anne was facilitating a training course in Ireland on the constitution of a human being to a small group of dedicated students, and also hosting meditation meetings. Anne would help out at Mind, Body, Spirit festivals. She even had a slogan to promote the book sales. If you're looking for spirit, try Bailey's. So I mentioned the work of Anne and Michel because they had foundations, they laid the foundations for a full moon group to be later established in Galway. A young doctor from Limerick joined the Arcane School, having been handed a copy of the Esoteric Healing by our old friend, the healer, Bill Parfrey. The doctor and a couple of friends started a full moon meditation group in Limerick. Around this time, we had our first overseas visitors with Jan and Steve Nation from Lucis Trust did a tour of Ireland. They gave talks in Dublin, Limerick, Cork, and finished with a weekend workshop in Cork. This was a great stimulus to the work, and our mailing list began to grow. Other visitors included Richard Brian Jeffries and Lynn Francis, who taught workshops on the Seven Rays and Sacred Circle dance. Over the years, we found that the right people would appear at the right time. By now, the Limerick group had gone into Pralaya. And Steve, who facilitated the Dublin group, was doing a lot of international travel. So the full moon meditation in Dublin was intermittent. We then received an email from a Caroline, a Dublin lady who came across the teachings while living and working in New York. She explained she was returning to live in Dublin and was interested in joining a full moon meditation group. I suggested that she could run the group in Dublin, but she declined, saying she would have no problem organizing meetings, but she had no experience leading meditations. Skip forward to the next Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in Dublin. Caroline was helping out at the event. I gave a talk on full moon meditation. A lady named Catherine came up to us at the end of the talk and said she couldn't organize the meetings but would love to lead them. Caroline and Catherine took over the running of the Dublin group for a number of years and have been best friends ever since. Our next visitor was Cathy Newburn, who lectured in Dublin, Cork, and Galway. Her evening talk in Galway on the Ageless Wisdom Teachings so inspired people that one lady named Mary contacted us next day to say she wanted to start a full moon meditation group. So a couple of weeks later, I traveled to Galway with my flip chart, gave an introductory talk, and another full moon meditation group was formed. Mary's meditations proved so popular that it was nearly standing room only. One couple would make a 3-hour round trip to participate each month. Mary encouraged them to start their own meditation group, which was established a year later in Ennis, County Clare. Soon we began to see other full moon meditation groups starting in Wicklow, Glanmire, Wexford, Leitrim, Meath, and Kildare. The full moon groups in Meath and Wexford have stopped holding their meetings as facilitators have gone abroad. One lady in Kildare has had to pause her meetings, but is still subjectively linking in each month. Other visitors we have had over the years included Harrison Dewey, a student from Nigeria who spent many months in Ireland. Helen Franklin from the International Network of Esoteric Healing, who facilitated 4 weekend workshops on esoteric healing. Dr. Ron Tiggle introduced us to meditation techniques linked with the soul mantra. Christian Hummel taught us dowsing and space clearing, so quite a varied selection. Then we met William Meader. Even though William is never a student of the Arcane School, he has studied the teachings for many years with Michael D. Robbins. He has a unique ability to take the teachings, step them down into a language that us mere mortals can understand. William has been to Ireland every year since 2009, giving evening talks, one-day seminars, weekend workshops. It is through promoting and sponsoring of these ambassadors of light that has proved to be the most effective way of growing the work of the service activities. Having spent several years working in training and development, I realized that the main job of a trainer is not to teach, but to create an environment in which learning can take place. So we use this approach in our service work, enabling people to come into contact with the teachings and thereby learn. It's a simple formula: organize a workshop, set up a venue with a table for Lucis Trust literature, So we order a lot of Lucis Press books, and we lay these books out. We set up a self-service bookshop and encourage people to purchase the books during the tea breaks. There's no formal structure to the network of groups. They are subjectively linked to cooperate with world service activities. People in local groups come together each month for full moon meditation with the opportunity to network afterwards. One couple met at a Waisak Full Moon Festival in Cork and have since got married. So we were thinking of launching our own dating app, Full Moon Dating, where old souls meet. Over the years, we've tried various things to make it easier for people to join in the service activities. Each month, we would send out a simple A4 flyer, folded in two. Page 1 is a quote from esoteric healing, esoteric astrology. Page 4 has all the details of the public full moon meetings in Ireland taking place. And pages 3 and 4 have an edited talk from a previous full moon. So people are encouraged to come to the group in their locality or simply read the talk and link in subjectively from home. We also produced a calendar. The 5-day cycle is in bold. The day of the full moon is in red. And the day of the full moon meditation is in a red box. So this is a great way of just visually showing people when the next full moon meditation was coming up. Participating in Mind, Body, Spirit festivals, we were asked for who was our name. So we said Goodwill Unit of Service in Cork, which is a bit of a mouthful. So at the time we decided to create our own website for the group. So we registered the name Global Goodwill Cork. Our first attempt was a homemade version. Our second attempt was a more professional version, but it was difficult to keep it up to date. So our third version, we used a company, Wix.com, which has a whole selection of different websites. You pick the one that you like, put in your own information, and you have, for less than €10 a month, you can have your own website. So we use this now, and instead of posting our flyers, we can send it out via email or hosting on our website. So opportunities continue to present themselves. Another opportunity arose in work for me, and I moved into video production. William Meader, each time William Meader comes to Ireland and he's giving a workshop, we would record. Thank you. So we would record his workshops and host them on his website, but several of these recordings now are actually on YouTube, so you can view them easily. And in fact, he's in the process of putting up a series of 12 short modules on the new group of world servers. They should be up this week, so well worth checking out. So there's William. So just do a search for William Meader, and there's plenty of content online. So in all the years we've been active in Ireland, I've never had to ask anyone to form a group. It's always been self-initiated. Someone expresses an interest in setting up a group. They usually have a core of like-minded friends to begin with. So we give our introductory talk, full moon meditation, facilitate our first meeting, and then they're free to work on their own. So if anyone is thinking of forming a meditation group, just start small, form a triangle with a couple of like-minded friends, and go from there. Once the monthly rhythm is established, you will sound a note and others will be attracted. There's plenty of support from Lucis Trust with all the literature that's available, so take the leap of faith and go for it. Will I finish? Okay. All right. I'll have to skip the short story at the end, so thank you for your attention.